The last customer left Sapphire Lounge at 2:47 a.m., and I was wiping down the bar when Marcus DeLuca asked me to stay. Have a drink with me, Elise. It wasn't a question. Not really. Men like Marcus, men who wore custom suits that cost more than my rent, who had other men opening doors and starting cars, didn't ask. They suggested, and the world rearranged itself to comply. I should have said no. Should have grabbed my coat and walked out into the Chicago night like I had every closing shift for the past 3 weeks. But there was something in his voice tonight, something that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up in warning. I don't drink on the job, Mr. DeLuca. You're off the clock now. He settled onto one of the leather bar stools, his dark eyes never leaving my face. And it's Marcus. I've told you that. I had been working at Sapphire for almost a month, and Marcus had been there for 21 of those nights. Always the same corner booth. Always watching me move through my shift with an intensity that should have made me uncomfortable. Instead, it made my hands shake when I poured his whiskey, made my skin flush when he thanked me in that low, smoke-roughed voice. I told myself it was just a harmless crush. He was handsome in that dangerous, way-sharp jawline, dark hair touched with grey at the temples, eyes that saw too much. And he tipped well. Really well. Well enough that I'd been able to send money home to Mum for Tommy's textbooks last week. 1 drink, I heard myself say. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Behind him I saw Vincent, his head of security, always present, always watching, shift slightly. The movement felt significant, though I couldn't say why. I poured 2 fingers of the 18-year Macallan Marcus always ordered and slid the glass across the polished wood. Our fingers brushed when he took it, and the contact sent electricity up my arm. You're good at this, Marcus said, gesturing at the pristine bar, the precisely arranged bottles. Attention to detail. Observation. You notice things other people miss. It's just bartending. No. His gaze intensified. It's not. I've watched you handle drunk businessmen, break up arguments before they start. Remember every regular's drink after 1 order. You read people, Elise. That's a valuable skill. The compliment made warmth bloom in my chest, which was stupid. I didn't need validation from a man I barely knew, no matter how he made my pulse race. Then Marcus reached into his jacket, and every instinct I had screamed danger. He pulled out a manila envelope and slid it across the bar. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were photographs. My brother Tommy walking across the quad at Northwestern, his backpack slung over one shoulder. Tommy at the library. Tommy getting coffee at the campus Starbucks. Each photo was time-stamped. Today's date, this morning. The bar suddenly felt too small, the air too thick. Why do you have pictures of my brother? My voice came out steadier than I felt. Marcus's expression was unreadable. Because I need you to understand something, Elise. You're under my protection now. Whether you want to be or not. Protection from what? From people who want to hurt me by hurting what I care about. He stood, moving around the bar until he was close enough that I could smell his cologne cedar and something darker, more dangerous. And I care about you. You don't even know me. I know enough. His hand came up, and I froze as his fingers brushed a strand of hair back from my face. The touch was gentle, possessive. I know you work 3 jobs to support your family. I know your father died 2 years ago and left medical debt. You're still paying off. I know you're taking online classes and haven't slept more than 5 hours a night in months. I know. How do you know all that? Fear and something else. Something heated and unwelcome, twisted in my stomach. Vincent stepped forward from the shadows. Sir, we should move. The perimeter. I'm driving Elise home tonight, Marcus interrupted, his eyes never leaving mine. No arguments. That's when I realized I had walked into something I didn't understand, and walking out might not be an option anymore. Marcus's car was a black Audi with windows so dark I couldn't see inside until Vincent opened the rear door. The leather interior smelled expensive, like money and power and choices I couldn't take back. I could take the L, I said, my purse clutched against my chest like armor. You don't need to. Get in the car, Elise. Marcus's voice left no room for argument. I thought about those photos of Tommy, about the time stamps that meant someone had been following him, watching him, cataloguing his movements. My baby brother, who still called me every Sunday to tell me about his classes, who wanted to be an engineer, who had no idea what kind of danger might be circling him. I got in the car. Marcus slid in beside me, and Vincent took the front passenger seat next to the driver, a broad-shouldered man I'd seen at the lounge but never spoken to. The locks engaged with a definitive click that sounded too much like a trap snapping shut. "Where do you live?" Marcus asked. "Logan Square." "But I still don't understand why. A rival organization has been watching you for 2 weeks." His tone was matter-of-fact, like he was discussing the weather. "The Volkov Bratva, their Russian expanding territory, and they've decided that eliminating my weaknesses is their opening move." The car pulled into traffic, headlights washing over us. My mouth had gone completely dry. "I'm not your weakness. I barely know you. They think you're important to me." His jaw tightened, a muscle ticking beneath the skin. "They think I come to your bar every night for a reason beyond the whiskey. Do you?" The question slipped out before I could stop it. He turned to face me fully, and in the dim light of passing street lamps, his eyes were molten. "You're about to be." Before I could process what that meant, the world exploded. The impact came from the passenger side, a massive SUV ramming into us with the force of a wrecking ball. My seatbelt locked as we spun, and I heard glass shattering, metal screaming. Then Marcus's body was covering mine, pushing me down into the seat as the rear window exploded inward. Gunfire. Sharp, rapid cracks that made my ears ring. "Stay down!" Marcus's weight pressed me into the leather, his hand cradling the back of my head protectively. I felt something warm and wet dripping onto my neck. Blood, I realized distantly. His blood. The driver was returning fire, his movements precise and mechanical. Vincent was shouting into a phone in rapid Russian. The car lurched forward, tires squealing, and I caught a glimpse of men in dark clothing through the shattered window, raising weapons. More gunshots. The rear windshield disintegrated completely. Then Marcus was moving, hauling me up with him. "Vincent, now!" A second car screeched alongside us, a black SUV that appeared from nowhere. The door was already opening. Marcus didn't hesitate. He grabbed me around the waist and literally threw me across the gap between vehicles. I landed hard on the back seat. The breath knocked from my lungs. Marcus landed beside me a second later, and the SUV was already accelerating before his door even closed. Behind us, I heard the crash of metal on metal, more gunfire, sirens beginning to wail in the distance. "Are you hurt?" Marcus's hands were on my face, my arms checking for injuries. Blood ran down his temple from a gash along his hairline, but his focus was entirely on me. I think I'm okay." My voice sounded strange, disconnected. I looked down and saw blood on my hands, small cuts from the glass. Nothing serious. Nothing like the wound on his head. "Sir, where to?" the new driver asked. His accent thick Italian, I thought. Marcus pulled out his phone with hands that were perfectly steady despite the blood and chaos. His eyes met mine as he spoke, and I saw something in them that terrified me more than the bullets had. "Lock down the estate. Full security protocol." His thumb brushed across my cheekbone, almost tender. "She's coming to me." The call ended. The SUV sped through red lights, taking turns that threw me against Marcus's solid frame. And I realized with crystalline clarity, I wasn't going home. I wasn't going anywhere I'd ever been before. I was going to Marcus DeLuca's estate, surrounded by men with guns, covered in blood, with no idea if my life would ever be the same again. The estate wasn't what I expected. I'd imagined something dark and fortress-like, all concrete and barbed wire. Instead, the gates opened onto manicured grounds that looked like they belonged in a magazine's sprawling lawns. Ancient oak trees, gardens that probably had their own dedicated staff. The mansion itself was stunning. French colonial architecture, with tall windows that glowed warm against the night, columns that spoke of old money and older power. It was beautiful. It was also surrounded by men with guns. I counted at least 6 guards as we pulled up the circular drive, and I knew there had to be more I couldn't see. Security cameras tracked our approach. Floodlights suddenly illuminated the perimeter with blinding intensity. "Welcome to my home," Marcus said quietly. Before I could respond, he was out of the SUV and opening my door. I expected him to let me walk on my own. Instead, he reached in and lifted me into his arms like I weighed nothing. "I can walk," I protested, my hands instinctively gripping his shoulders for balance. "You're shaking." His voice was gentle, but his hold was iron. "And there's glass in your hair." "Let me do this, Elise." I was shaking. I hadn't noticed until he said it, but my entire body was trembling with delayed shock. So I stopped fighting and let him carry me up the marble steps, through double doors that someone held open, into a foyer that probably cost more than my entire apartment building. A woman in her 50s appeared immediately, dark hair pulled into a neat bun, kind eyes that widened when she saw the blood. "Dio mio, Marcus, Dr. Castellano is waiting," Marcus interrupted, still holding me. "In the east sitting room. I'll bring supplies." He carried me through corridors lined with art I didn't have time to examine, into a room dominated by floor-to-ceiling windows and furniture that looked antique and priceless. A woman in her 40s with a medical bag was already there, setting up on a coffee table. Only then did Marcus set me down on a cream-colored sofa that I was definitely bleeding on. "Dr. Castellano, this is Elise," Marcus said, stepping back but not far. "Never far. Take care of her first." "You're bleeding, Mr. DeLuca," the doctor said pointedly. "Her first." The authority in his voice made it clear this wasn't negotiable. "Doctor." Castellano sighed but turned to me, her hands gentle as she examined the cuts on my arms and hands. Most were superficial, small nicks from flying glass. She cleaned them with antiseptic that stung, applied butterfly bandages to a few deeper ones. The whole time, Marcus stood behind the sofa, close enough that I could feel the heat of him. I heard him speaking in rapid Italian orders, I assumed by the sharp tone. Through the windows, I saw more guards taking positions around the property. The floodlights stayed on, turning night into artificial day. "You'll be fine," Dr. Castellano assured me. "Nothing serious. You were very lucky." Lucky. The word felt absurd. She moved to Marcus next, cleaning the gash on his temple. He didn't flinch, didn't even seem to notice. His eyes stayed on me the entire time. When the doctor finally left, promising to return in the morning to check on us, the silence in the room was deafening. "I want answers," I said, forcing strength into my voice. "Right now, no more cryptic warnings. What the hell is happening?" Marcus moved around the sofa, sitting beside me but leaving careful space between us. His hands were clasped between his knees, and for the first time since I'd met him, he looked almost uncertain. "The Volkov Bratva is a Russian organized crime syndicate. They've been trying to expand into Chicago for the past year, targeting my operations, my territory." He paused. "I've been pushing back, successfully. So they've decided to change tactics. By targeting me, by targeting anyone they think I care about." His eyes met mine. "They've been watching you for weeks, Elise. They know I come to your bar every night. They know I don't let other men approach you when I'm there. They know I tip you enough to make a difference in your life. To them, that means you're important. But I'm not. We barely know each other. They don't care about the truth. They care about perception." He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in every line of his body. "And the truth is, they're not wrong. You are important to me." My breath caught. "Marcus, you need to stay here, where I can protect you. Where they can't reach you." The words settled over me like a cage door closing. "For how long?" His jaw tightened. When he spoke, his voice was flat, emotionless, which somehow made it more terrifying. "Until they're all dead." I looked around the beautiful room, at the armed guards visible through the windows, at the man beside me who'd just casually declared war. The mansion was gorgeous, luxurious, perfect, and I couldn't leave. I'm a prisoner, I whispered. You're protected, he corrected. But he didn't deny it. Day 3 of captivity, and I still hadn't found the edges of the property. The mansion had 12 bedrooms, a library that made me ache with longing, an indoor pool that steamed in the morning light, and gardens that seemed to stretch forever. My room, because apparently I had a room now, faced east, overlooking rose gardens and a marble fountain. Everything was beautiful. Everything was a cage. I was exploring the library when a woman appeared in the doorway. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe 30, with sharp features and sharper eyes. She wore tailored black pants and a silk blouse, and she moved with the same predatory grace as Marcus's men. Miss Chun, I'm Sophia Raines, Mr. DeLuca's second-in-command. Her handshake was firm, assessing. I wanted to go over security protocols with you. You mean prison rules? I said. A ghost of a smile crossed her face. If you prefer. Stay away from south-facing windows. The tree line is too close, provides cover for snipers. Never answer the door yourself. Never go outside without Vincent or myself accompanying you. The perimeter's guarded 24/7, but that doesn't mean you're safe if you wander. Snipers. The word made my stomach clench. How long have you worked for Marcus? 8 years. Sophia's expression softened slightly. He saved my sister from a trafficking ring. Killed 3 men with his bare hands to get her out. When she was safe, he offered me a job, purpose, a way to make sure it never happened to anyone else. I'd heard variations of this story from the household staff over the past 2 days. The cook whose son Marcus paid to put through rehab, the driver whose daughter got a full scholarship to Princeton funded anonymously, but everyone knew. The gardener whose family Marcus relocated from Naples when the Camorra marked them. Everyone here owed Marcus their life or their family's life. Everyone here would die for him without hesitation. He has enemies who would do terrible things to get to him, Sophia continued, echoing what she'd said before. The Volkovs are just the current threat. There will always be another. That's the life he lives. Then why live it? The question burst out of me. Why not just leave? Start over somewhere. Sophia studied me for a long moment. Because men like Marcus don't get to leave. They were born into this world, shaped by it. His father ran the DeLuca family before him, his grandfather before that. This isn't a job he chose. It's a legacy he inherited at 16 when his father was murdered. 16. God, he'd been just a kid. But he's different from his father, Sophia added quietly. More careful about civilian casualties, more strategic. He has rules: no drugs in schools, no human trafficking, no targeting families. In our world, that makes him almost noble. I didn't know what to say to that. How to reconcile the man who'd carried me into this mansion with the crime lord who'd inherited an empire built on violence. That night, Marcus joined me for dinner in the smaller dining room, the one that only sat 8 instead of 20. He'd been absent the past 2 days, locked in his study or out handling business I wasn't allowed to know about. He looked exhausted. The bandage on his temple was gone, revealing a healing cut. His suit jacket was discarded, his shirt sleeves rolled up, exposing forearms marked with old scars. "You've been avoiding me," I said as staff brought the first course. "I've been trying to end this quickly." He picked up his wine glass but didn't drink. "So, you can go home. Is that what you want?" "For me to go home?" His eyes met mine, and the intensity there stole my breath. "What I want and what's right are 2 very different things, Elise." We ate in silence for a moment. Then I said, "Sophia told me you were 16 when your father died." Something flickered across his face, old pain. Carefully buried. "Sophia talks too much. She's loyal to you. They all are. Loyalty built on debt isn't the same as loyalty built on choice. And me?" I set down my fork. "What am I? Debt or choice?" Marcus stood abruptly, moving to the window. The guards were visible in their patrol patterns, shadows against floodlit grounds. You mentioned you were saving for art school before your father got sick. The subject change was deliberate, but I let it happen. Yeah. The School of the Art Institute. I was accepted 3 years ago, but then Dad's cancer treatment wiped us out financially. And Tommy needed, "You'll finish your degree." He turned to face me, and his expression was fierce. "When this is over, when you're safe, I'll make sure of it. Full tuition. Whatever you need." The promise should have felt like charity. Instead, it felt like a vow. "Why?" I whispered. "Because you deserve to have your dreams back." He crossed to me, his hand gentle as it cupped my face. "Because I took your freedom. The least I can do is give you a future." My heart hammered against my ribs. "Marcus." His phone buzzed. He ignored it. It buzzed again and again. With a curse, he pulled it out, and I watched his expression turn to stone as he read the screen. "What is it?" "The Volkovs just burned down one of my clubs." His voice was ice. "With my people still inside." The alarm shattered my sleep at 2:17 a.m. I bolted upright in the massive bed, my heart already racing before my brain caught up. The sound was piercing, not like a fire alarm, something else, something that made the hair on my arms stand up in primal warning. Then my bedroom door burst open, and Marcus was there. He had a gun in his hand. His hair was disheveled, his white dress shirt half unbuttoned, like he'd been in the middle of undressing when the alarm went off. But it was his eyes that made my blood run cold, sharp, focused, and absolutely lethal. "Up. Now." He crossed to me in 3 strides. "What's happening?" "No time. Move, Elise." I scrambled out of bed, barefoot in the oversized t-shirt I'd borrowed from the clothes Sophia had provided. Marcus grabbed my hand and pulled me toward the bookshelf on the far wall. His fingers found something I couldn't see, and suddenly the entire shelf swung inward with a pneumatic hiss. Inside. He was already pushing me toward the dark opening. "Marcus, inside." The command was absolute. I stumbled into darkness. A second later, lights flickered on LED strips revealing a small room, maybe 8 by 10 feet. Reinforced steel walls, a bench along one side, a panel of monitors showing different views of the estate. A panic room. Marcus followed me in, and the door sealed behind him with a sound like a tomb closing. The silence was immediate and complete, broken only by our breathing and the faint hum of ventilation. "What's happening out there?" My voice sounded too loud in the confined space. He was already at the monitors, his free hand working controls while the gun stayed ready in his right. "Perimeter breach. South side, exactly where I knew they'd try." His jaw was tight, every muscle in his body coiled with tension. "They're testing us, seeing how we respond." On one of the screens I saw figures moving through the tree-lined shadows with weapons. Then muzzle flashes lit up the darkness, and I realized what I was watching. Gunfire. A firefight happening on the grounds while I stood here in silk pajamas. "Your men are trained for this." But his hand was white-knuckled on the edge of the console. "Vincent has it under control." I moved closer to see the screens better, and Marcus's arms shot out, pulling me against his side. The gun was still in his hand, pointed at the door, but his other arm wrapped around me with almost bruising force. "If anything happened to you," he stopped, his chest heaving against my back. "If they got inside, if they reached you, they didn't." I turned in his hold, my hands finding his face. "Marcus, look at me." "They didn't." His eyes met mine, and I saw something in them I'd never seen before. Fear. Real, raw, human fear. "I should send you away," he whispered, his forehead dropping to rest against mine. "Somewhere they can't find you. Somewhere safe." "But I'm not strong enough, Elise. God help me. I'm not strong enough to let you go." On the monitors, the gunfire was dying down. Vincent's voice crackled through an intercom. "Breach contained. 3 hostiles neutralized. We're clear, boss." Marcus didn't move. Didn't acknowledge the "all clear." His breath was warm against my lips, his body a solid wall of heat and muscle and barely controlled violence. "You're shaking," I breathed. "I know. His thumb traced my cheekbone, and the tenderness of the gesture was devastating. You terrify me. Do you understand that? You make me weak. You don't look weak. That's because you don't know what it costs me to stand here instead of hunting them down right now. His hand slid into my hair, gentle despite everything, every instinct I have is screaming at me to go out there and paint the ground with their blood for daring to come near you. Then why don't you? Because leaving you feels impossible. His lips brushed my temple, soft as a prayer. Because the thought of you here alone, even for a second, stops my heart. The monitors showed his men securing the perimeter, dragging bodies into the trees. Business as usual in Marcus DeLuca's world. But in this sealed room, with his arms around me and his defenses finally cracking, none of that seemed real. Marcus, I whispered, you can let me go now. It's over. His arms tightened. No, not yet. Just give me a minute, please. So I did. I stood there in the panic room while his heart hammered against my cheek, while his fingers tangled in my hair, while the walls he kept so carefully maintained crumbled just enough for me to see the man underneath the monster. And when he finally reluctantly released me and opened the door back into my bedroom, when he insisted on checking every corner before he'd leave, when he paused in the doorway and looked at me like he was memorizing my face, I realized I hadn't wanted him to let go either. Marcus had been avoiding me for 2 days. After the breach, after that moment in the panic room where I'd felt his walls crack, he'd retreated behind ice and distance. He left before dawn, returned after midnight, communicated only through Sophia or Vincent. When I did see him, usually passing in hallways, his eyes would meet mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. Then he'd look away and keep walking. It was driving me insane. I found him in his study at midnight, surrounded by photographs and documents spread across his mahogany desk. Surveillance images, maps, what looked like financial records, the evidence of a war being planned with surgical precision. He looked exhausted. The cut on his temple had faded to a thin line, but new shadows had appeared under his eyes. His tie was gone, his shirt sleeves rolled up, revealing those scarred forearms. An empty whiskey glass sat at his elbow. You should be sleeping, he said without looking up. So should you. I closed the door behind me, my heart hammering. But you've been in here every night, haven't you? Planning, strategizing, avoiding me, his hand stilled on the papers. I'm not avoiding you, liar. That made him look up. The intensity in his dark eyes nearly made me step back. Nearly. Let me go, I said, forcing the words out. Let me disappear somewhere. Change my name. Start over. Then I won't be your weakness anymore. You can fight this war without worrying about me. He was around the desk so fast I barely saw him move. His hands framed my face, tilting it up to meet his gaze, and the raw emotion there stole my breath. You think I haven't thought about that every minute of every day? His voice was rough, strained. You think I don't know that's the right thing to do? The smart thing? Then why don't you? My hands came up to grip his wrists, feeling his pulse racing beneath my fingers. Because I'm a selfish bastard who wants you more than he wants to do the right thing. His thumb traced my lower lip, and I felt the touch everywhere. Because the thought of you out there, alone, where I can't see you, where I can't know you're safe, it terrifies me more than any war. Because he stopped, jaw clenched, fighting whatever he was about to say. Because what? I whispered. Because I'm falling in love with you, and I don't know how to stop. The confession hung between us, raw and desperate, and absolutely terrifying. I should have run, should have remembered all the reasons this was impossible. He was a criminal. I was his prisoner. This could only end in disaster. Instead, I rose on my toes and kissed him. For a heartbeat, he froze. Then he was kissing me back with a desperation that matched my own, his hands sliding into my hair, pulling me closer. I gasped against his mouth, and he took advantage, deepening the kiss until I was dizzy with it. He lifted me, and suddenly I was sitting on his desk, papers scattering to the floor. Surveillance photos of his enemies, forgotten. Battle plans, irrelevant. His hands were on my waist, my thighs, everywhere, and not enough, and I was pulling him closer, needing him closer. Elise. My name was a prayer and a curse on his lips as he pulled back just enough to meet my eyes. If we do this, if we cross this line, I know. I framed his face with my hands, seeing him clearly, the dangerous man who'd locked me away. The broken boy who'd inherited an empire too young. The protector who'd covered my body with his own. I'm crossing it anyway. His eyes darkened with something fierce and possessive. Then you're mine. Do you understand? Not because I'm keeping you here, not because of protection or circumstance, but because you choose to be. I'm yours, I breathed. And you're mine. He kissed me again, slower this time, but no less intense. His hands were gentle, despite the desperation I could feel thrumming through him. When he pulled me against him, I felt his heart racing as fast as my own. Later, much later, we lay tangled together on the leather sofa in his study, my head on his chest, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on my shoulder. The city lights glowed through the windows, and for the first time since I'd arrived at this mansion, I felt something other than fear. I felt chosen. And choosing. No going back now, Marcus murmured into my hair. No, I agreed. No going back. Outside, guards still patrolled. Enemies still circled. War was still coming. But in this moment, wrapped in his arms, I couldn't bring myself to care. I woke to morning light filtering through the study windows and Marcus's arms still wrapped around me. For a moment, one perfect, fragile moment, I let myself pretend this was normal, that we were just two people who'd fallen asleep together, that there weren't armed guards outside, that my presence here wasn't the catalyst for a war. Then Marcus's phone buzzed on the desk, shattering the illusion. He was awake instantly, every muscle tensing. His arm tightened around me protectively even as he reached for the phone with his free hand. I watched his expression turn to stone as he read the screen. What is it? He didn't answer. Just handed me the phone. The image on the screen made my blood turn to ice. Tommy, walking out of his engineering building, his backpack slung over one shoulder. But this wasn't surveillance from a distance. This was close. Too close. Close enough to see the freckles on his nose, the hole in his favorite jacket. Close enough to touch him. The message below the photo was in broken English. Surrender Port District territory by Friday, or we start with brother. Then mother. Then everyone you love. No. The word came out as a whisper. No, no, no. Marcus was already dialing, his movements sharp and controlled. Vincent. I need protection details on the following people immediately. Thomas Chun, Northwestern Campus. Patricia Chun, Lincoln Park address I'm texting you. I want eyes on them in the next 20 minutes. He rattled off more names. My cousin in Milwaukee, my best friend from high school, people I'd mentioned in passing during our dinners. He'd remembered everything. Marcus, my brother, doesn't know anything about this. He's just a kid, I know. He pulled me against him, his hand cradling the back of my head. I know, Elise, and I'm going to keep him safe. I promise you that. How can you promise that when they're already that close to him? His eyes met mine, and what I saw there was absolutely merciless. Because by tonight, everyone who took that photo will be dead. Within the hour, his entire crew had assembled in the mansion's main conference room. I watched from the upstairs gallery, hidden in shadow but unable to look away. 24 men filled the room, some in suits, others in tactical gear, all radiating the same dangerous competence. Vincent stood at Marcus's right hand, Sophia at his left, and Marcus commanded the room with an authority that was almost physical. The Volkovs want a war? His voice carried to every corner. We'll give them one, but we do this smart, surgical. We dismantle them piece by piece until there's nothing left. He pulled up images on a projection screen locations. People, organizational charts. These are their money operations. Their weapons suppliers, their safe houses. We hit them all simultaneously. Cut off their resources, their support, their ability to regroup. His eyes found mine across the room, and I felt the intensity of his gaze like a physical touch. and anyone who touches what's mine answers to me personally. The meeting dissolved into tactical planning teams being assigned, weapons being distributed, timelines being set. I stood frozen, watching the machinery of war spin into motion because of me. Quite the show, isn't it? I turned to find Vincent standing beside me, his scarred face unreadable. "He's never been like this," Vincent continued quietly. "Reckless, emotional. In 15 years, I've never seen Marcus let anything compromise his judgment. And you think I'm compromising it? I think you've changed him." Vincent's eyes were sharp. "I can't decide if that's good or catastrophic. He's always been calculated, controlled. Now he's planning to wage total war because someone threatened you." "That kind of passion either makes a man unstoppable or gets him killed," I finished. Vincent nodded slowly. "The question is, are you worth dying for, Miss Chun?" Because that's what he's preparing to do. Before I could answer, Marcus was there, taking the stairs 2 at a time. "Vincent, I need you coordinating the Port District teams." "Move out in 30 minutes, sir." Vincent nodded and disappeared. Marcus turned to me, and despite everything, the war, the danger, the impossible situation, his hand was gentle as it cupped my face. "Your brother has 4 of my best men watching him. Your mother has 3. They won't see them, but they're there. I've also arranged for Tommy to receive a last-minute internship offer in California. Paid, prestigious, starting immediately. He'll be out of Chicago by tomorrow night. You can't just uproot his entire life." "I can, and I will." His thumb traced my cheekbone. "I will do whatever is necessary to keep you and everyone you love safe. Do you understand? There is no line I won't cross. No price I won't pay." I saw it then, truly saw it. The terrifying depth of what he felt for me. This wasn't just attraction or even love. This was obsession, devotion, the kind of fierce, consuming passion that destroyed empires. "Marcus," I whispered, "what if this goes wrong? What if people die because of me? Then they die." His voice was absolute. "I've made my choice, Elise. You're what matters. Everything else is just noise." The war began at midnight. I watched from the study windows as Marcus's teams departed in synchronized waves, black SUVs disappearing into the Chicago night like shadows with purpose. He'd kissed me before leaving, hard and desperate, like he was memorizing the taste of me. "Stay inside," he'd commanded. "No matter what you hear." That was 6 hours ago. Now, the sun was rising, painting the sky in shades of blood orange, and Marcus still wasn't back. My phone, the secure one Vincent had given me, showed news alerts I couldn't stop reading. "Fire at Port District warehouse. Authorities investigating. 3 found dead in suspected gang violence. Explosion rocks. River North building." Each headline was Marcus. Each casualty was part of his surgical dismantling of the Volkov Empire. He returned at dawn, and I barely recognized him. Blood spattered his white shirt, not his own, I realized with sick certainty. His eyes were hollow, distant, like he'd gone somewhere dark and hadn't fully come back. He walked past me without speaking, heading straight for the study's private bathroom. I heard the shower running for 40 minutes. That became the pattern. For a week, Marcus orchestrated strikes with ruthless precision. Volkov operations fell like dominoes, money laundering fronts raided, weapons shipments intercepted, key lieutenants disappearing into the night. But each morning, he came back a little more hollowed out. This morning, the shadows under his eyes deepened. He barely slept, barely ate. I'd find him at 3 a.m. staring at surveillance feeds, or on encrypted calls speaking rapid Italian, or standing at the windows like he was daring his enemies to come. 3 of my men were injured tonight, he said on the 7th night. His voice flat, dead. I'd found him on the terrace, staring at the city lights sprawled below us like a glittering battlefield. "Marcus, they walked into an ambush because I ordered them to. Because I needed a distraction while another team hit the Volkov's main safe house." He didn't look at me. "Pietro has a wife, 2 kids. He took a bullet to the shoulder because I needed to protect you." The guilt in his voice was suffocating. "Then stop," I begged, moving to stand in front of him. "Negotiate. Find another way." He looked at me then, and the raw emotion in his eyes stole my breath. There is no other way. The Volkovs don't negotiate. They conquer. They take and take until there's nothing left. So you'll just keep fighting? Keep putting your people in danger? For how long? For as long as it takes. His hands gripped the terrace railing so hard his knuckles went white. Do you understand what they'll do if they get their hands on you? What they'll do to punish me? I understand that you're destroying yourself, and I will burn this entire city down before I let them have you. The words exploded from him, years of control finally shattering. Do you understand that, Elise? I will salt the earth and watch it all crumble. I will paint the streets red and make widows of their wives. I will do whatever it takes, cross whatever lines exist, become whatever monster is necessary, because losing you is not an option I can survive. The ferocity in his voice should have terrified me. Instead, I closed the distance between us, my hands finding his face. Then let me help. My voice was steady despite my racing heart. Stop locking me away like I'm made of glass. Let me be part of this. Let me fight with you, instead of being the thing you're fighting for. If anything happened to you because I allowed you into danger, I'm already in danger. I held his gaze. They already have my photo, my name, my family's locations. Hiding me in this mansion doesn't change that. At least let me face it with you. Let me be your partner, not your prisoner. For a long moment, he simply stared at me, and I could see the war raging behind his eyes, the need to protect me fighting against something else, something that looked almost like hope. You have no idea what you're asking, then show me. His hand came up to cover mine against his face. And when he spoke, his voice was raw. If I let you in, if I show you everything, you might not be able to look at me the same way. Try me. Marcus led me to his war room at midnight. It was in the basement, a space I'd never been allowed to enter. Reinforced walls, multiple screens showing live feeds from across the city, and a massive table covered in documents, maps, and photographs. This was where he'd been orchestrating his dismantling of the Volkov Empire. Sophia pulled these from a shell company we raided last night. He spread financial records across the table. But we can't find the pattern. Can't figure out what they're hiding. I moved closer, studying the numbers. Columns of transactions, dates, amounts. It looked random at first, but I'd been managing my family's finances for years, tracking every dollar to keep us afloat. Here, my finger traced a series of payments. These amounts, they're too consistent. Same sum every 2 weeks, different accounts, but always the same total when you add them up. Marcus leaned over my shoulder, his breath warm against my neck. Keep going. And these dates align with ... I grabbed another document, cross-referencing, port inspections. They're paying off inspectors, but the money's flowing to a property management company. That's the real front. I looked up to find Marcus staring at me with something like awe. "Vincent!" he called out. Within seconds, his second appeared. "Pull everything we have on Meridian Property Management. That's where they're hiding something big." 2 hours later. Marcus had a location, a warehouse near the docks, registered to a subsidiary of a subsidiary of a subsidiary of Meridian. "If they're paying this much to hide it," he said, already mobilizing his team, "it's either weapons or money. Either way, we hit it tonight." "I'm coming with you, Elise. You said I could be part of this. I found the location. I deserve to see it through." He looked like he wanted to argue, but something in my expression stopped him. "You stay in the car with Vincent. You don't move unless he says." "Non-negotiable." I nodded, my heart already racing. The warehouse district was industrial wasteland, abandoned buildings, rusted shipping containers, darkness broken only by scattered floodlights. Our convoy stopped 2 blocks out, and I watched through the windshield as Marcus's teams moved into position with military precision. "This feels wrong," Vincent muttered beside me, his hand on his weapon. "Too easy. They should have security." The explosion of gunfire cut him off. Muzzle flashes erupted from the warehouse, from the rooftops, from behind containers. Everywhere. Marcus's men scattered for cover as bullets tore through the air. "It's a trap!" Vincent was screaming into his radio. "Fall back! All teams fall back!" Through the chaos, I saw Marcus behind a concrete barrier, pinned down by crossfire. His men were trying to reach him, but the Volkovs had superior position, superior numbers. Then I saw it. A figure moving along the left flank, using the darkness and containers for cover. Getting an angle on Marcus's position. In seconds, he'd have a clear shot. "Vincent! There!" I grabbed his arm, pointing. "I see him!" Vincent raised his weapon, but another burst of gunfire forced him back behind the car door. Marcus didn't see the threat. His attention was on the warehouse, coordinating his team's retreat. I didn't think. I grabbed Vincent's backup pistol from the glove compartment and ran. "Elise, no!" Vincent's shout was distant, unreal. My feet pounded against pavement. The gun was heavy in my hands, unfamiliar. I'd never fired a weapon in my life, but Marcus was about to die, and my body moved on pure instinct. The Volkov soldier was raising his rifle, sighting down at Marcus's exposed position. I fired. The recoil nearly knocked me down. The shot went wide. I had no idea where it even went. But the soldier turned, saw me, and suddenly his weapon was swinging in my direction. I fired again. Wild, panicked shots that hit nothing but air, but it bought time. Marcus's head snapped around. He saw me standing there, completely exposed in the middle of the kill zone, and his face went white with absolute terror. "Elise!" One of his men didn't see who took down the flanking soldier. But more were turning their weapons toward me now. This stupid woman who'd run into a firefight with no cover and no idea what she was doing. I was going to die. Then Marcus was there, tackling me to the ground behind a rusted container. His body covered mine as bullets sparked off metal, as the world became nothing but noise and terror, and the crushing weight of him protecting me. "What the hell were you thinking?" he roared against my ear. "You could have been killed! So could you!" Backup arrived, sirens, more of Marcus's men, the Volkovs finally retreating into the darkness. When the shooting stopped, Marcus pulled me up, his hands checking me for injuries, his eyes wild with rage and fear. "Don't you ever do that again." But I saw it in his face, the same realization that had driven me into that firefight. We'd both die for each other, and we both knew it now. The ride back to the estate was silent except for Marcus's ragged breathing. His hand gripped mine so tightly it hurt, but I didn't pull away. Every few seconds his eyes would flick to me, like he needed to confirm I was still there, still whole, still alive. When we pulled through the gates, he was out of the SUV before it fully stopped. He hauled me out after him, his movements rough with barely controlled fury, and dragged me through the mansion and into his study. The door slammed behind us. "What the hell were you thinking?" He rounded on me, and I'd never seen him like this, shaking with rage and terror, his control completely shattered. "You ran into a firefight. You could have been killed. So could you?" I shouted back, my own adrenaline finally crashing into anger. "I watched that soldier line up a shot on you, and Vincent couldn't take him down, and you were going to die. So you decided to play hero with a gun you don't know how to use." His hands gripped my shoulders. "You fired blindly into an active combat zone. Do you understand how many ways that could have gone wrong? I wasn't going to watch you die, and I'm not going to watch you throw your life away for mine." His voice cracked. "You don't get to do that, Elise. You don't get to risk yourself for me. That's not how this works." "Then how does it work, Marcus?" I shoved against his chest. "You get to sacrifice everything, but I have to stay locked away and protected. You get to burn cities for me, but I can't fire a few shots to save you." "Yes." The word was almost a roar. "Because losing you would destroy me in ways you can't comprehend. Because you are the only good thing in my entire goddamn life, and if something happened to you because of my world, because I pulled you into this darkness, I pulled myself in." I grabbed his face, forcing him to look at me. "I chose this. I chose you, and that means I get to fight for you the same way you fight for me. It means we're partners, Marcus. Equals, not protector and prisoner. You could have died." His forehead dropped to mine, his hands gentler now but still trembling. When I saw you standing there, exposed, with bullets everywhere, my heart stopped. Actually stopped. I know. I slid my arms around his neck. I felt the same way when I saw that soldier aiming at you. I love you. The words came out, broken, desperate. God, Elise, I love you so much it terrifies me. You make me weak and strong at the same time. You make me want things I can't have. Normal things. Safe things. A life where you're not in danger every second. I love you too. I kissed him softly. And I don't want safe if it means losing you. I don't want normal if it means being apart. He kissed me back, hard and claiming and full of everything we'd been through. When he pulled away, his eyes held something that looked like surrender. If we really do this together, there are rules. I'm listening. You learn to shoot properly. You learn self-defense. You don't make moves without backup. His thumb traced my jaw. And you never, ever scare me like that again. Deal. But you have to promise me something too. Anything. No more shutting me out. No more making decisions about my life without me. We face this together, or not at all. For a long moment he studied my face. Then, slowly, he nodded. Together. Together, I echoed. He pulled me to the windows overlooking the city. Somewhere out there, the Volkovs were regrouping, planning their next move. The war was far from over. His men were still in danger. My family still needed protection, but something had shifted tonight. I wasn't Marcus DeLuca's weakness anymore, his liability, his prisoner, the thing he kept locked away in a gilded cage. I was his partner, his equal. The woman who'd run into gunfire for him, and who he'd tear the world apart to protect. They won't stop coming, Marcus said quietly, his arm around my waist. The Volkovs, and whoever comes after them. There will always be another threat. Then we'll face them all. I leaned into him, feeling his heartbeat steady against my back. Whatever comes, however long it takes, even if it means living like this. Always watching over your shoulder, always ready for the next attack. I turned in his arms, seeing him clearly, the dangerous man who'd stolen my freedom, the broken boy forced to become a king, the protector who'd covered my body with his own, the man I'd somehow, impossibly, fallen in love with. I'd rather live one day with you in danger than a lifetime safe without you. His kiss was answer enough. Outside, guards patrolled the perimeter. Security feeds monitored every approach. War still raged in the shadows of Chicago. But in that moment, wrapped in Marcus's arms with the city glittering below us like scattered diamonds, I understood something fundamental. Love in his world didn't look like roses and romance. It looked like bulletproof glass and panic rooms, like learning to shoot and strategic partnerships, like choosing danger together over safety apart. And I was choosing it, choosing him, choosing us. Whatever came next, whatever fires needed to be lit or cities needed to burn, we'd face it the only way that mattered, together.